Let go of the past, Cloud. Fill your hollow heart with rage, that you may burn your world to the ground, as I did.
クラウドってめちゃめちゃ多分弱い男なんで。
I'm gonna be a soldier. The best of the best. Like Sephiroth.
You are too weak to save anyone. Not even yourself.
I'm no hero.
For you are but a puppet. My puppet.
Focus on you, Cloud. The real you. Cloud!
クラウドは本当になんてこう情けないんだろうっていうふうに思ってしまう面もあるような。
Every time I rewatch this scene at the end of Crisis Core, I'm overcome with a deep sense of injustice, sadness, and most of all, powerlessness. Because I know Cloud, I know the burdens he shoulders, the scars he hides, and the inescapable loneliness that he is left in after the loss of his only real friend and mentor. So I always keep coming back to the question of, what does it mean to be strong? And how much can a single person's mind endure before it shatters into a million pieces? In most stories, weakness is an obstacle to be conquered, and by the end of it, the hero stands taller, almost unstoppable. But Cloud Strife's journey in Final Fantasy VII refuses that arc. His weakness is not something that can be just trained away or beaten in battle. It is woven into the essence of his identity. It is the confusion of a fractured mind, the isolation of a man afraid to be known, the weight of guilt for failures both real and imagined, and the burden of living under a false self. Naturally, the way it is set up, Cloud's hero's journey will deviate from the traditional formula long established in myth and fiction. So instead of growing stronger side by side with the player, Cloud's power must first be stripped away before it can be restored. Since his journey is not an external battle, but rather an internal struggle for authenticity, as seen in the livestream sequence, it creates this unique dynamic with the player that forces us to care for a protagonist who is not in control, who is vulnerable, and who must rely on others to piece himself back together. And in a genre where heroes often become gods by the final act, Cloud Strife remains a man, scarred and imperfect, but nonetheless a hero to admire and strive for. With that in mind, let's unpack Cloud's psyche and examine how his weakness redefines what modern heroism can look like.
Get down here, Merc.
When we first meet Cloud, we immediately get the impression of him as the cold, brooding, and stoic strong warrior type. He doesn't particularly care about the purpose of this mission, the planet, or the group that hired him.
This is a one-time gig. When it's done, we're done.
Any attempts by the others to moralize him to the cause are met with heavy disinterest. He says very little, keeps his distance, and brushes off the enthusiasm and approaches of anyone trying to get closer to him. This indifference is what drastically sets him apart from everyone else in the group, but especially from Barrett, when he rages with huge fervor and passion about how everything he does against Shinra is for the sake of saving the planet.
You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the planet crying out in pain? I know you can!
You really hear that?
Damn straight I do!
Get help.
But as heroic as all this sounds, Cloud doesn't care in the slightest.
Save the screaming for later.
So then, what can I get you?
Even around Tifa, his childhood friend he is supposedly close with, any sort of friendliness just bounces right off Cloud, only answered with a mix of detachment and imposed coolness.
What?
Give me a break. I'm not a salesman. I'm a soldier.
Which is why no one will refuse to pay. What do you say? Please?
Let's get this over with.
Though his new behavior seems completely foreign to her, Cloud sees it as nothing unusual. To him, that's just who he is.
How sweet. When did you get so thoughtful?
Guy can change. Has been 5 years.
Huh?
On the surface, it's easy to believe Cloud Strife is exactly what he claims to be. A composed and hardened elite mercenary who's been through it all and who doesn't need to rely on anyone. Nothing can face him and no battle is too big for him. But on the inside, this strength is hollow. Almost nothing about Cloud's presentation here is real. The poise, the confidence, the soldier persona, all of it an act. The real Cloud Strife is no hero at all. He's shy, introverted, even a little dorky at times. Simply a country boy at heart, wanting to desperately prove the whole world how strong he can be.
So you want to be in Soldier? Hang in there.
In truth, Cloud never managed to join Soldier. Although it is implied he met the physical requirements, due to his weak psyche, he failed the entry tests and ended up as a regular Shinra grunt. Still, he held on to the dream of one day becoming a soldier.
If I can join.
Don't worry. If I can do it, you can.
During his time with Zack, who just seems to be always so upbeat and optimistic, Cloud slowly learns to believe in himself and show what he really feels.
Sir,
What, Cloud? Together again, huh? All right.
Thanks. Hold on. I'll get everyone.
But more than that, Zack teaches Cloud how to care, how to be strong and kind. He finally feels what it's like to be accepted for just being himself. Yet all this kinda, softer side of the real Cloud is buried beneath the cold and detached persona he puts on in Midgar. A persona that in the end is nothing more than a fabrication. An amalgamation of borrowed memories, half-remembered aspirations, and an unshakable childhood fantasy of what a hero should be. And so when talking about Cloud's false identity, one must inevitably talk about the figure that serves as the foundation for all this. Sephiroth, legendary soldier and object of Cloud's idolization.
I'm waiting, Cloud.
I'm gonna be a soldier. The best of the best, like Sephiroth.
Back when Cloud was a kid in Nibelheim, he looked up to Sephiroth as the embodiment of strength and perfection, like the kind of hero that is practically untouchable. We see it in Crisis Core 2, where Sephiroth is portrayed as the stoic soldier who operates solely on strategy and calm precision. And if it feels familiar, that's because it's the Cloud we meet in Midgar. The confidence, the coldness, they don't come from Zack, they're Sephiroths. And while it may seem paradoxical at first that Cloud would adopt the personality traits of the very man who ruined his life, and whom he had already bested at the Nibelheim reactor, the explanation lies in the complex interplay between his promise to Tifa at the watertower and his desperate need to preserve the ideal hero image modeled almost entirely on the war hero Sephiroth as a solution to his own weakness, as well as in the possible influence of Sephiroth Genova cells he received through Hojo's experimentation.
You killed my mom. You killed Tifa. My village. My home.
I believed in you. No.
Not you. Whoever the hell you are!
Embrace your dreams. And, whatever happens, protect your soldier honor.
On the other hand, Zack was nothing like Sephiroth or Cloud's constructed self at all. He was warm, light-hearted, sometimes downright goofy.
Me? Gungaga. Hey, what's so funny about that? You know Gungaga?
A hero who connected with people as easily as he protected them. Therefore, what Cloud carries from Zack aren't his personality traits, but his memories and mannerisms, which have been reinterpreted through Cloud's own idealized lens to match the cool hero mask he always wanted to wear. The result is a strange hybrid of Sephiroth's attitude mixed with the accomplishments of Zack, all barely held together by Genova's influence and Cloud's deep insecurities. Because, to put it bluntly, Cloud is fundamentally broken. His fractured memories and this patchwork identity that was unconsciously assembled as a trauma response to the horrors of Nibelheim, his captivity, and watching his best friend die before his eyes. All of it led Cloud to become the master of his own illusionary world. A past so devastating to a gentle soul such as him that the only way out of it was to let go of who he really was and adopt the persona of the ideal hero he always dreamed of being. And what's more, this complexity of Cloud is well reflected in his outward appearance. The comically large Buster Sword, which is just impossibly impractical in so many ways, represents the weight of his traumatic past and expectations. Top it off with the bulky, one-sided shoulder guard, and suddenly his slim frame disappears, replaced by the image of strength and individuality he wants the world to see. That same pattern reappears on a larger, significantly more uncanny scale in the present-day Nibelheim. Just as the original town was burned down and replaced with an imposter version, complete with actors posing as villagers selling the illusion of ordinary life, Cloud 2 hides the devastation of his past behind a false construct. A persona as staged and unnatural as the new Nibelheim. But it's not just how Cloud looks or acts. The illusion runs through nearly every word he speaks about himself and his former life. He talks about being an ex-soldier first class with total confidence, but the moment that story gets tested, the cracks begin to show. His mind turns on him with sudden headaches, brief dissociations, and flashes of a truth he can't face, hammering home the insecurity he's been running from. Out of all the party members, Tifa is the first one to notice the gap between the persona he presents and who he truly is. And she picks up on it surprisingly early.
Huh? What's with you all of a sudden?
With me?
Like you're losing that hard edge.
That bad?
Not at all. I like it. Maybe Marlene won't be so scared of you next time.
It only takes a little time in Sector 7 with Tifa and the others for Cloud to start slipping. His cold act softens, his body language changes, and you catch glimpses of who he really is. Rare moments, sure, but they show the truth under the soldier uniform. A dorky, goofy guy, totally at odds with the lone wolf attitude he usually puts on.
Nailed it, I know, thank you. Moving on.
Make no mistake, Cloud has feelings, he just doesn't show them. Because deep down, he's terrified of expressing his emotions in a genuine fashion. Being honest and truly feeling would simply be too much.
Really, it's fine.
Doing so would require facing his traumatic past and the vulnerabilities he has long buried, which is something he is not prepared to do. At least, not yet.
Easy does it. Slow. And steady.
欲しいものがあったらなんかしないとダメだろうっていうのがクラウドの場合は非常に大きな過去を背負ってるわけですけども、普通の人の人生に置き換えても、同じようなことが言えるんじゃないのかなと思ってます。
By the end of Midgar, it's obvious how much he's been hiding. The deaths of Jesse and Biggs shake him in ways he can't explain. Slowly, he starts to care. About the mission, about his friends, about the people around him. But even then, he's staying cautious. He doesn't know what to do with these feelings yet, and that persona he's built is struggling to stay in place and keep his vulnerability hidden. And that barrier is exactly what's preventing him from really connecting with the others, which is such a crucial aspect of his character because Cloud's whole inner journey from fragile insecurity to genuine strength rooted in identity is reflected most clearly in the bonds he learns to build.
I'm really glad to have you back, Cloud. Really glad.
Cloud's early exchanges with Tifa reveal that he is not alone in struggling to voice his feelings. Though she has known him longer than anyone, their conversations often feel restrained, almost heavy with things left unsaid.
You're not interested, are you?
Not really. But I'm happy to listen, so go ahead.
It's okay. Forget it.
Was this another test?
No, it wasn't. Why deny it? I guess it was, huh? I'm sorry.
It's fine. We'll find time to talk.
When Cloud tells his side of that night in Nibelheim, he paints himself as the hero standing shoulder to shoulder with the great Sephiroth. But the inconsistencies in his story start to mount quickly. The photo of him, Tifa and Sephiroth before the mission. The figure who entered the reactor while Tifa waited outside. The soldier who witnessed Sephiroth's madness take root in the Shinra Manor. And the one who stood against him after Tifa was nearly cut down. All these pieces build a story where Cloud is the protagonist, when in truth, he wasn't. Back then, he was just another faceless Shinra grunt under a helmet, hiding and ashamed that he hadn't lived up to his promise he had once made, to join Soldier and to protect Tifa when she needed him most. And when it comes to the final fight with Sephiroth, Cloud remembers nothing. His mind refuses to process the truth of what really happened. To him, this is how the Nibelheim incident unfolded. But to Tifa, his version simply doesn't add up.
This is gonna sound crazy, but as far as I know, Cloud was never in Nibelheim 5 years ago.
And she's right, at least in part. The last time she saw him was 7 years earlier when he left to join Shinra. Yet Cloud's story is littered with details he couldn't possibly know. These inconsistencies in Cloud's account have been apparent to Tifa ever since they reunited in Midgar. But even then, she couldn't bring herself to confront him. Part of it was her nature. Tifa isn't very confrontational and rather emotionally shy. Part of it was fear. Having witnessed Cloud's fragile state back in Midgar, she was worried that pushing him too hard might break the tenuous bond they had just re-established. In the worst case, even break something inside of Cloud.
Didn't want to upset you. That's all.
And part of it was uncertainty. Because of her own trauma from Nibelheim, Tifa's memories were hazy, fragmented, and at times even completely buried. Cloud's confident retelling made her doubt herself, and the last thing she wanted was to lose him again. For much the same reasons as Cloud, she too avoided facing her own inner weakness and the pain of abandonment. This is what makes the newly added scene in Rebirth so powerful. After Cloud recounts his version of the Nibelheim incident, Tifa finally addresses the elephant in the room and confronts him directly for the first time.
Wasn't just him, though. There's the doctor who operated on me all night, and the nurses who looked after me for days on end. I'm here now because they were there for me then. And where were you again? In fact, where have you been this whole time? For 5 years.
You know I can't tell you that.
Of course you can't.
This exchange exposes the depth of the rift between them. Her bottled up frustration with Cloud's fragile state and his inability to answer her without unraveling completely, it's all a bit much for her to handle, understandably. But it creates this raw, incredibly human moment that feels like it has been missing in the original game until the livestream sequence. The scene on the rooftop of Calm ends in an uncomfortable parting. Tifa's hope of reclaiming at least part of something familiar after losing her father, her hometown, and nearly her own life has been met with conflicted feelings and a painful reminder that both of them are still trapped in their trauma.
I thought we could just pick up where we left off, like nothing had changed. But I guess I was wrong.
Guess so.
I was so happy to see you again, but maybe I shouldn't have been.
This is what makes their relationship so tragic. It carries both the promise of healing and the weight of everything left unspoken. And it's why the livestream sequence remains so crucial. Only there, when Tifa and Cloud are forced to face their fractured memories together, can they begin to reconcile with their past selves. For Cloud to rediscover his true identity, he needs Tifa not only as a guide to his childhood, but also as someone who has confronted her own wounds. His survival and growth depend on her strength and her willingness to finally face what she too has long suppressed.
He's my bodyguard. And a soldier. Pretty cool, huh?
Aerith's dynamic with Cloud, on the other hand, pushes in a very different direction. Whereas Tifa embodies the past through the promise at the watertower and the shared weight of their childhood trauma, Aerith meets Cloud entirely in the present. She carries no preconceptions of who he once was or who he was supposed to be. And that difference is what makes their bond unique. She engages with the Cloud in front of her, trying to understand him as he is now.
That a compliment?
Not really.
Thanks anyway.
Especially in their early interaction, it becomes clear that her free-spirited and joyful nature is the greatest counter against Cloud's guarded persona. In classic extrovert fashion, she meets Mr. Cool and unimpressed over here with warmth and persistence, making it difficult for him to retreat into isolation.
You should come with.
That wasn't the deal.
You mean you want more? Even though you've got a priceless reward coming your way? Do you know what I promised him?
I'll do it.
It's playful, sure, but it's also deeply empathetic. Aerith offers Cloud a way out, a space in which he can express who he really is. Because, unlike with Tifa, deep down, Cloud isn't forced to uphold the infallible hero image.
Learn to talk to her.
Did the flowers say anything?
Good work today, guys?
That's the spirit.
Aerith, perhaps more than anyone else, understands the pain of carrying an identity that feels heavier than yourself. As the last of the Cetra, she struggles to reconcile her own desires with the responsibility of standing before her people and the planet. It's precisely because of this inner conflict that she sees through Cloud's mask so easily, and why she approaches him in a way no one else can.
Why?
Because I'm not sick of you yet.
In many ways, their time together feels almost therapeutic. Small gestures of connection become symbolic moments where Cloud slowly learns it's safe to let his guard down. Aerith, much like Zack before her, peels back the layers of the persona he hides behind, reminding him of who he really is. This makes their bond deeply significant, because Cloud finally receives the kind of affection his younger self always longed for. And yet, for all the progress she inspires in him, their relationship can never be fully genuine. As long as Cloud hides behind the false identity he's created, he cannot connect with her or anyone else completely. And Aerith senses this dissonance in ways others can't.
Because right now, I want to be with you. And I'm trying so hard to find you.
But I'm right here.
Yeah, you are.
But in a way, he isn't. She knows the man standing before her, the one she's grown to care about and even love, is fighting an internal battle that's slowly tearing him apart.
Just focus on yourself, okay?
But I'm fine.
Focus on you, Cloud. The one I've been trying to find. The real you.
Huh?
Unfortunately, he can't see what Aerith sees, and so the true Cloud remains locked away. This moment in particular reveals just how deeply his persona isolates him, leaving him unable to fully embrace Aerith's love, but also the deeper strength within himself. A strength that will only surface once he finally confronts who he really is.
子供の見るものの大半っていうのはすごいヒーローっていうのは強くてかっこよくてっていうその弱いところはないっていうそのまあ多少弱点的なものはあってもちょっとまあなんて言うんだろうそれはこう愛嬌みたいなノリなんですけどクラウドは本当になんてこう情けないんだろうっていうふうに思ってしまう面もあるような、まあ、ある意味すごい人間らしい人間というかキャラクターなんで。
The hero's journey usually plays out like a familiar song. A hero sets out, experiences setbacks, but ultimately grows stronger through them, until he eventually returns to triumph over the villain. While Cloud initially appears to follow this trajectory, Final Fantasy VII deliberately subverts the formula. Instead of powering up after his lowest point, he completely falls apart. His mind cracks, his will isn't his own, and he ends up doing someone else's bidding. It's not the usual fall and rise we expect, but rather a total collapse. And that's because Cloud's journey has something most don't. A curse named Sephiroth.
Oh, Cloud, there's still so much to be done.
On numerous occasions, often when you least expect it, Sephiroth invades Cloud's mind with the sole purpose of tormenting him.
You're not real. You're dead.
I am.
Or at least, that's how it appears from Cloud's perspective. Over time, it is revealed that Sephiroth's true body remains trapped in the northern crater, and that he exploits his connection through Genova cells to slowly engineer Cloud's breakdown, all in service of orchestrating the reunion.
After all, you're just a puppet.
To carry out this plan, he manifests as a voice or a vision only Cloud can perceive, thus giving form to the internal battle that Cloud is fighting for his identity, and as the encounters grow more frequent, emphasizing the extent of his unstable mental state.
You are too weak to save anyone. Not even yourself.
Are you okay?
It's in moments like these that the cool and composed hero facade completely falls apart. When his Nibelheim trauma resurfaces, Cloud either freezes or lashes out, flooded with fear and panic that rip through the composure he's fought so hard to maintain. Because Cloud's strength, or better said, his assumed strength, is not the result from overcoming his own weakness, the hallmark of true heroes, but rather fashioned as a shield against it. And over time, these mental episodes escalate into phases of complete powerlessness and loss of control, as his mind and body further succumb to Sephiroth's will.
You have failed again, I see. But through suffering, you will grow strong. Isn't that what you want?
Cloud's identity crisis spreads like Mako poisoning the body, destabilizing the bonds he forms with others and undermining his ability to act when it matters most. It's a slow-burning realization that gnaws at him until he's left questioning everything about himself.
Sometimes, I don't even know who I am. I forget things everyone else remembers just fine, and know things I've got no right knowing. It's like there's different people inside of me. And the worst part is, I can't even tell where they end and I begin. It's hollowing me out, bit by bit.
With each step he takes to foil Sephiroth's plans, he comes to realize that the strength he projects is hollow, and that the persona he clings to cannot shield him from his own weakness forever. Cloud is reminded that he is no hero. He is not the soldier strong enough to protect others, the figure he longs to be for himself, and each confrontation chips away at his sense of self.
I'm no hero. What kind of hero falls off a cliff with the person he's trying to save and pushes him into a pool of Mako? Sometimes, I don't even know who I am.
Cloud's confession to Tifa and Gongaga raises a haunting question. If someone sustains a fabricated identity for long enough, does the mask eventually replace the self? At first, the mask may feel like protection, but over time, it may become the only face left. And when the boy beneath, the insecure, overlooked kid from Nibelheim, has been so thoroughly repressed that he no longer exists except as a tangle of false memories, what remains of him at all?
I think that's what's happening to me. That I'm falling apart.
The danger of living behind a mask isn't only that you might lose sight of who you really are. It's that, in the moment when your identity is tested, you may have nothing solid to resist with, which is exactly what happens at the Temple of the Ancients.
I'm not like him. I'll never be like him.
Just as the party secures the power to destroy the planet, Cloud falls into Sephiroth's control like never before, stripped of any shred of his own will, even if only temporarily. Here, Cloud's true self emerges in the form of his wounded inner child, the boy who once idolized his hero Sephiroth. It's a heartbreaking vision capturing his desperate struggle to resist and the awful truth that he is a prisoner both to Sephiroth's will and his own fractured mind.
For you are but a puppet, my puppet.
Cloud isn't strong enough. His lack of control is absolute. And to make matters worse, Aerith must suffer the consequences of his helplessness firsthand. However, it's only once he learns that Aerith has disappeared to confront Sephiroth on her own that he cautiously begins to tap into this budding awareness of the real danger his lack of control can pose to others. He realizes the true source of his fear isn't merely Sephiroth, but the agonizing dread of discovering a truth about himself that his mind has long kept buried, which further fuels his fear of slowly falling apart.
Whatever happens, don't blame yourself.
And then it happens. Cloud finds Aerith at the altar in the Forgotten Capital, praying quietly, and the dread he's been carrying comes crashing down. His fragile grip on himself nearly breaks again, and though he manages to resist it this time, only 7 seconds later, he's forced to witness the inevitable. Holding her lifeless body, he is consumed by the heartbreaking realization that she will never laugh, cry, or get angry again. The bodyguard he promised to be for her had failed. The hero he aspired to become couldn't save her. In Cloud's eyes, Aerith's death is his failure alone, and the weight of that creates a profound emptiness within him. A hollow that will haunt him for the rest of his life. That moment is when his world stops and will never truly start again.
自ら自分の犯した罪というふうに捉えてることっていうのは誰かに責められてる罪ではないんで、どっちかっていうと自分が乗り越えなきゃいけないことと言った方が。
For a soul as fragile as Cloud's, losing Aerith feels like a cruel confirmation of the limits of his strength. Although his struggle with Sephiroth had already been deeply personal, her sacrifice compels him to carry her purpose as his own, transforming his grief into resolve. Stopping Sephiroth became a mission as much for himself as for the planet she gave her life to protect. It's worth remembering that Cloud is a character who is defined by his bonds with others, and whose rediscovering of himself is inextricably tied to these. Aerith was one of his most precious emotional anchors, who provided the connection and love he so deeply longed for. Losing her pushes him to the brink, leaving him to question his own free will, his abilities as a leader, and even whether he can go on at all. Even if he manages to break free from Sephiroth's manipulation, what does it matter if in the end he fails to protect those he cares about most?
Cloud. Thank you.
Cloud's story, told through his lens of an unreliable narrator, has carried him this far. And nowhere is this more apparent than at the Northern Crater, where Sephiroth's influence is the strongest. When the secret locked in Tifa's heart is revealed, Cloud is forced to believe that he was never truly the Cloud from Nibelheim at all. An insidious ploy designed as the final blow to his fragile mental state. And rather than uncovering the truth of who he really is, Sephiroth twists the gaps in his memory into lies, and with them, the very pillars of his identity crumble. His heroism, his ties to Sephiroth and Soldier, even his sense of purpose. Everything he remembered was a lie, and everything he can't remember is a truth too heavy to bear. In the end, Cloud's breaking point comes when even his final emotional anchor, Tifa, cannot disprove Sephiroth's lies. And without her support, he has nothing left to hold on to.
Cloud, lend me your strength. Let us defy destiny together.
So complete is his collapse that Cloud surrenders entirely to Sephiroth's will, becoming the very puppet he had unwittingly shown himself to be. In this state, Cloud experiences a form of weakness almost no hero is allowed to show. Stripped of agency, voice, and direction, he becomes unrecognizable from the confident mercenary we have followed. Cloud's mind has been once again shattered into a million pieces. Yet this extreme fall is necessary, because only by losing the last remnants of his illusory persona can he begin to reclaim his true self and become the hero he always wanted to be.
Let go of the past, Cloud. You'll never see the truth with such clouded eyes.
Never mind about that. Right now, you need to focus on yourself.
Just focus on yourself, okay? Focus on you, Cloud. The one I've been trying to find. The real you.
Embrace your dreams. If you want to be a hero, you need to have dreams.
You saved me before. Now it's my turn.
The story of FF7 has stood the test of time, endured through generations even, and it's easy to see why. It speaks to struggles and truths that touch us all. Among the plethora of themes this work harbors, it's about the search for identity and accepting oneself, about the bonds of family, and sacrifice, and about learning to live freely in the present by making peace with the past. And for Cloud, every theme, every struggle, and every truth collide right here in the livestream sequence. This event marks the inescapable death of his false persona and simultaneously the rebirth of his long-forgotten real identity. The entire sequence is designed as a journey of profound introspection, a confrontation with his weakness, his failures, and the beliefs that shaped him since childhood. Only by facing these truths can he rediscover who he truly is and allow the broken child within him to begin to heal. The livestream itself, being the flow of all life and memory on the planet, becomes the perfect stage for this transformation. His healing runs parallel to the greater theme of the planet's own recovery from exploitation and corruption. Just as the planet draws on the livestream to regenerate, Cloud too restores his fractured mind by immersing himself in it.
Cloud!
Your words can't reach him now.
No! Don't take him too!
Leading up to this event, Cloud finds himself at the lowest point of his life once more. Having lost himself yet again and fallen victim to an even more severe case of Marco poisoning than before, he washes ashore in Mediel, broken and helpless. Alone, this would have been the guaranteed end for Cloud. But this time, Cloud isn't alone. This time, he has Tifa by his side. But only thanks to Aerith, who acted as the catalyst for change within Cloud, is she finally able to break into his emotional isolation. And once more does Tifa become his guide, as she has time and again. With her support, Cloud dares to confront the memories his mind has long avoided all this time. Step by step, he retraces every fractured image and distorted truth, searching for the real him of that day until the full picture emerges. The insecure boy from Nibelheim who promised to become a hero in the hope of being noticed and loved, who failed to enter the soldier program because he was too weak-willed, who hid his face out of shame from the very person he longed to impress. This same boy tapped into a shocking well of power and as a mere teenage grunt struck down the legendary Sephiroth, driven only by his will and the desperate desire to protect those he loved.
No. Impossible.
But the livestream sequence does way more than just reveal the truth behind the Nibelheim incident. It reaches further back into the memories where Cloud's story truly began. Here we see that Cloud was an eccentric, socially withdrawn, and often isolated kid who thought himself to be too different from others. And apart from his single mother Claudia, he felt little connection to anyone. Even Tifa, the girl he quietly had a crush on, kept her distance, seeing him as an outsider. In this context, the memory that proves most defining for Cloud's heroism is not his eventual triumph over Sephiroth at the reactor, but a much earlier one buried deep in his childhood.
When the rest of them ran, you were there for me.
Tifa, stop! We have to turn back!
You stayed when I needed you most. If that's not a hero, then I don't know what is.
One day on Mount Nibel, when Tifa ventured off in a desperate search for her late mother's spirit, Cloud tried to follow and protect her. Instead, he failed, and Tifa's fall left her in a coma for 7 days. Cloud carried the weight as if it were his fault, and even convinced himself that Tifa despised him for it. To make matters worse, the townspeople unjustly turned their grief into blame and resentment toward the ostracized kid. This moment alone became the silent core of his self-contempt, the wound from which all his later struggles would grow. And from that pain emerged the promise that would shape the rest of his life, to be strong enough to save Tifa the next time she needed him.
That's what heroes do. They save people. Please? Just once. Come on, promise me.
Fine. I promise.
But the promise was never only for her. It was also for himself, born of self-disgust at his weakness and a yearning to be loved and acknowledged. To fill that void, Cloud turned to an image of strength larger than life itself, Sephiroth, the war hero idolized across the world. To Cloud, Sephiroth represented the solution to his weakness, the path out of his loneliness and into acceptance, and the embodiment of what it meant to be someone worth noticing. Every future promise Cloud ever made was driven by the same burning desire, whether at the watertower with Tifa, to Zack as he carried his legacy, and even when he promised Aerith to protect her as her bodyguard. And behind each of these stood the same unspoken truth. Cloud's dream of heroism was as much about saving others as it was about saving himself from the boy he believed was too weak, too unwanted to ever truly belong. But in the end, and most importantly, the memory of Mount Nibel reveals that Cloud is at his essence someone who has always cared, someone who has always been willing to risk himself for those he loves. And this, paired with the courage he demonstrated time and again, whether when confronting Sephiroth's mental invasions, navigating the horrors of the Nibelheim reactor, or chasing after Tifa when everyone else fled, this forms the heart of his true identity. No matter the fear, no matter the weakness, Cloud keeps moving forward.
そういうヒーローっていうのは、まああれでも一応ヒーローなので、そこまでこうちょっと弱いリアルなヒーローっていうのはなかなかいないと思うんです。まあそんなクラウドでさえ結局はその強くなっていくというか、まあ最終的には守るべきものっていうものを取り戻していくというか。
And it's precisely the stubbornness, this will to love and protect the people dearest to him, that defines Cloud's heroism. He was never meant to be an infallible and perfect champion. He was always something rarer, something more real. And in the end, that is what makes his story not just heroic, but profoundly human. And for the first time in the entire story, Cloud's character and his actions finally make sense. His awakening reframes everything we've seen of him, and each of his contradictions suddenly fall into place. And fittingly, even though Cloud is the story's initial protagonist and the very first character we meet, he is also the final character we truly get to know. At long last, Cloud discovers that his true strength was never borrowed from others. It was his all along. And with his true identity restored, the false persona he carried for far too long dissolves, giving way to something stronger. A self grounded in acceptance rather than performance.
You remembered, Cloud. It'll be okay. It will.
Freed from Sephiroth's influence and the weight of his past, Cloud sheds the emotional armor he once wore and is finally ready to form genuine bonds with his companions. Scenes such as Cloud empathizing with Yuffie over their shared seasickness come to mind, as well as the quiet moment of vulnerability he shares with Tifa beneath the High Wind. And aboard the same ship, he extends the lesson of his own journey to the entire group, urging each of them to uncover a purpose worth fighting for before facing Sephiroth. emphasizing that what was once Cloud's greatest weakness has become the very foundation of his leadership. By the time the High Wind sails toward destiny, Cloud has already won the only battle that truly mattered. The battle within. It's a struggle Sephiroth could never face, let alone overcome.
True strength comes from our ability to forgive, to forge ahead in the hope of making things right. It comes from ourselves. So focus on the future, not the past. Do that, and not even Sephiroth will be able to stand in our way. Not even him.
Their once toxic fixation on one another, the driving force behind so much of their conflict, dissolved alongside Cloud's awakening. No longer is Cloud dependent of Sephiroth to define his worth. Meanwhile, Sephiroth remains hopelessly trapped in his own delusions of being the chosen one and rightful heir to the planet. For him, defeat is unthinkable. To admit it would shatter the identity he built when his own mind broke in the Shinra manner. In this way, the two stand as mirrors. Cloud has outgrown the illusion, while Sephiroth remains bound by it.
The world won't end today. But you will.
Their eventual triumph at the Northern Crater would prove the sentiment. Cloud never needed to be like Sephiroth to be a hero. He surpasses him in every way that matters, above all in inner strength. Sephiroth, the once revered war hero, could never accept himself. His greatness collapsed under the weight of denial. Cloud, by contrast, broke free from illusion and betrayal, and in doing so, destroyed the false image he once idolized. Thus, their final confrontation serves as a metaphysical battle of wits, in which Cloud emerges victorious no matter what. And in that final moment, he became more than Sephiroth ever was. He became Cloud Strife. So every time I come back to the scene at the end of Crisis Core, a scene that in my eyes tragically encapsulates the haunting shadows of the past, the unbearable reality of the present, and the suffocating hopelessness of the future. Every time I ask myself, what does it mean to be strong? And at first, I can't help but feel bad for Cloud. I feel bad for the many injustices he had to endure, the mercilessness of his fate, the harshness of the world he had to contend with. But worst of all, it always felt like he had rarely any choice in this. But if there is one thing that Final Fantasy VII has taught me, it's that there is a way out, no matter how engulfing the darkness or how deep the abyss. As long as you stay true to yourself and have the courage to face your past, then even the weakest of heroes, even those whose greatest strength is their weakness, and those who fight further can succeed. After all, limits are meant to be broken. Right, Cloud?
それを見た人というか見た子供たちがともすれば情けない男でも周りの要は仲間がいたり自分が大事なものっていうのが見つかれば強くなっていけるというか。
Hey everyone, thanks so much for sticking with me all the way to the end. Final Fantasy VII has been my favorite forever, and Cloud Strife is a character I've always felt connected to and someone who's been part of my life for a long time. So making this video was really special. I spent the last 4 months putting it together and tweaking every detail until I felt it finally did him justice. So if you enjoyed it, a subscription would honestly mean the world. With that said, thanks again for being here, and until next time.